It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin. And we are 10 days away from the 2025 NFL Draft.
It's insane. I'll give you my report from Green Bay as we would. The draft stage is being built. It's not fully up yet, but like the roof is up and like streets are closing around Lambeau, and it's definitely like the energy is in the air where you can start to see everything kind of come together and take place. All the stuff is being announced. Everything, the news is all about, what bus routes you can take to get there, who's going to be at the draft, what events are taking place around the draft, what companies are. So that's been, the entire city has been completely, vexed by this event, which, I mean, it's one of the most fun things of the like any sports off season, one of the biggest events of any sports off season. So I'm excited, and obviously, as you keep hearing, we're going to be there. So
yeah,
can't wait.
It's going to be an absolute blast. And then the invite list comes out, or the attendee list came out, and I mean, for today's world, for the world that we live in now, it was a pretty good list. 17 players. We got Ted, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty. I mean, they're all going to be there. So in little humble Green Bay, I've been hearing podcast ads now for the draft in Green Bay, and it's like,
feels weird.
Man, this is crazy.
Right.
Like it's really setting in. Yeah. So, being 10 days away, we do not have much time left before we discover where the 2025 campers will begin their NFL journeys. So that means it's time to put up or shut up, at least for now, because we have the beauty of adjusting these things after landing spots. But pre-draft rankings, it means a lot, because this is just your opinion. There's nothing influencing it. There's no way. You can't talk yourself into a landing spot. You can't talk yourself out of a landing spot with a player. This is pure talent evaluation, and we are going to be taking a look at our top 24 players as it sits right now.
Yeah, traditional 2-round rankings, essentially. We're going to get through here. It might be a longer episode, but, give you the timestamps if you want to jump around and hear about certain players, go for it. But I mean, stay for one, stay for them all.
This is what it's all about.
That's right.
I mean, if you're listening to draft content, if you're listening to fantasy dynasty content, like it all comes down to this moment. We have a lot of fun.
Listen to. I can tell you that.
Right, exactly. We have a lot of fun with the process, and we try to spice it up along the way, but at the end of the day, man, it's all about where'd you rank the damn players. So,
yeah, exactly.
Let's dive right in, because like you said, this could be a bit of a longer one, but that's okay. This is a celebration leading up to the NFL draft for us. And we are starting at number 24, and I will turn it over to you.
I got Cam Ward at number 24. Could be the number 1 overall pick. We don't really know. Cam Ward, spoiler, is going to be the only quarterback in my top 24. Reiterate, this is not Superflex rankings. This is single quarterback plus rankings, which is 6-point passing touchdown on top of the other normal quarterback stuff. So the quarterbacks are still valuable, though they're not super inflated like in Superflex leagues are. So got Cam Ward here at 24, likely the Titans' next quarterback. If not, then he'll be the Browns' next quarterback, and he probably won't fall much further than that. He's become the consensus number 1 quarterback in the league's eyes. I was on the fence between him and Shedeur. You have wholeheartedly endorsed Cam Ward as your quarterback 1, and he now is also my quarterback 1. I mean, when you come to splitting hairs, like I think the Cam Ward quarterback play style is better for NFL quarterback than the Shedeur. But yeah, here we are, number 24, Cam Ward.
Yep, I have Ward at 25, so he is my first player out of this list today. We had a bit of this conversation back when we did our Superflex rankings episode, because you did not have a quarterback in your top 12. I believe Cam Ward was 8 for me, and he was my only quarterback in my top 12 for Superflex. And we had a comment on YouTube that was like, what? I mean, Cam Ward's going to go like top 2, right? Like that's what everybody else is saying. Like what, that seems a little weird to have him later or not at all. But I think when we translate that to now our one quarterback plus rankings, and he is like a fringe top 24 player, even though he is going to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I mean, it's just, again, we are evaluating the talent. It's not necessarily that he's going to be the first pick and like that he's going to get an opportunity with the, presumably get an opportunity with the Titans to be their franchise player. It's more about like, I like Cam Ward, but there are legitimate like challenges that come along with Cam Ward, and there's enough there to like make me skeptical about what his NFL trajectory could look like. And in the business of fantasy, I don't want to waste second round picks on quarterbacks that are leaving me with a little bit of, uncertainty in the end. So that's why I do have him first man out. But I mean, I could totally see just getting him in at the very end of the second round and just securing, what's going to be the number 1 overall player in the NFL draft.
I also feel like we qualified it pretty well in that Superflex episode of like, if you need a quarterback, feel free to take Cam Ward. Like this is just straight up independent rankings outside of everything. So if you have like a perfect roster, or if you have nobody on your roster, like I wouldn't take Cam Ward over these guys. But like obviously your situation matters, your dynasty roster matters, your dynasty league matters. So like if you need a quarterback and you're sitting at 5 and you have pick 11 also, and somebody between 6 and 10 is going to take Cam Ward, take him at 5. Like, I'm not saying you can't take Cam Ward early. I'm just saying I wouldn't rank him higher than those other guys in Superflex and, the next 23 guys in non-Superflex. So it's all dictated based on context. I'm not saying he's a bad player. It's just I think the ceiling's limited, and that's if he hits. So,
yep. That is another part of it as well. Like he's not there's not a ton of rushing upside with Cam Ward. There's maybe a bit, but like it's not. This just reminds me a lot of like 2 years ago with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, where I thought those players were better prospects than Ward and of course Sanders for me as well. But I mean, even then, it was like, what is the upside here? And we're still kind of ranking them towards the end of the second round. And I believe Bryce Young went 301 in our actual rookie draft.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the range that we're talking about here with these sorts of quarterbacks, even if they're going first overall, when they don't present, huge upside.
Like, is Cam Ward's ceiling like Matt Stafford? Like, it feels like that feels around solid there. Yeah. And so like that's very top end. And like maybe you're throwing 5,000 yards to Calvin Johnson at some point, but like realistically probably ends up a little lower than that. It's averaging you like 15 a game in fantasy. And it's like, well, that's okay. Like I don't hate that, but it's not somebody that you want to, pin at the top of your board and say, I want to count on this guy for the future of my franchise. I don't think.
Cam Ward to Jeremiah Smith in 2 years. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right. My number 24 player is Elijah Arroyo, tight end from Miami, Cam Ward's teammate. Did he make your top 24?
He did not.
So this is, I have quite a few tight ends. We'll find out in the upcoming spots in my rankings, because I think there is a cluster of players here at this position that I've sort of had grouped throughout the entire process as players that are certainly not in the level of the guys we're going to talk about much later in the show, but guys that offer at least a, very, very enticing upside pathway. And I think for Arroyo, that was very clear, not only from his film from Miami this year, but then everything he's done in the draft process as well, most notably at the Senior Bowl. So I think you have this ultra athletic, a player that proved his size, measuring in at 250 plus with legitimate top end speed for a tight end. I do think he's a little bit rough around the edges, but even then, I'd expect him to go second round in the NFL draft, and I'd be comfortable taking him here at the end of the second.
Yeah, I don't think this is a bad spot at all. I wouldn't have him much further outside of my top 24. I think there's huge upside with Arroyo. Like you said, the athleticism, the physicality is all really, really tantalizing. Like a guy that you look at and you're like, this guy can absolutely find a role in the NFL. Like, that's no question about that. Whether or not, I guess the only things that I'm concerned about is I like the size. I like the speed. The technique is here and there on routes and all that, but it's a tight end. I don't expect you to be perfect, but I also have 4 tight ends in my top 24. So this is a very good class. He just ended up being one of them that got left out.
Yeah, there's more beyond the 24 that are exciting names potentially. Yeah. So, all right. Well, your number 23 player then.
Let's stay with tight end. We're going with Mason Taylor here out of LSU. So he is definitely, I think, a more polished version of the player, but less athleticism out of the tight end position. I was really impressed with how smooth he was when he did combine drills. I thought that he looked really good in person. He's a fluid catcher of the football, if that makes sense. He gets it into his
natural hands.
Yeah, it gets in his hands and moves pretty easily after the catch too. I think he can make a lot of difficult catches, tracking the ball over his shoulder and different stuff like that. I just really feel like he is, like you said, a natural pass catcher.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. He is my number 22 player. So we've been pretty spot on so far with where we're seeing things, but Taylor is my tight end 4 in this class, but I like him a lot. He is the sort of player that I think projects to be a very high floor sort of tight end in the league, just because of I feel like his game is already so solid, even as a 20-year-old player. That is something that I feel like is lost with Taylor, a 3-year starter for LSU and ultimately becoming their leading receiver as a tight end in program history over the 3 years. He's still only 20. He'll be 20 years old when he's picked on draft day. He'll turn freshly 21 a month after the draft. So he is an extremely young player that has already, had 3 years of experience in the SEC and shown some very, very promising things, especially this last season, where he really, kind of broke out and ultimately put his name fully on the map as a, potentially top 50, maybe top of round 2 sort of player in the NFL draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So my number 23 player is running back DJ Giddens.
Okay.
So Giddens, I'm assuming did not make your 24.
Correct.
He is a bit of a my guy in this class, and the my guy tax we upped it a few percentage points when he lit the combine on fire, which was not exactly what I was expecting to see from him. I did have questions about his overall athleticism. And so that because of that, I also don't want to look at the combine and be like, wow, like where was that on film? Like bump him up the board. But he does get a little bit of a boost from me just because of how, very, very top end his athletic testing numbers were. And for a player that shows a very, very wide range of moves as a running back. Like he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve in terms of making tacklers miss, in terms of creating extra yards that aren't necessarily there for him. That was the big thing when we go back to running back rankings 2.0. The big buzzword I used for Giddens was creativity. I loved how he created yards that weren't always there. And he's been a very productive player for Kansas State for the last 2 seasons. And I'm really excited to see where the NFL values him, because I would expect him to be a day 2 pick based off of his film and his testing. But we'll see.
Yeah, I like Giddens. I think like the explosiveness is something that jumps out. The lateral mobility is something that really jumps out. His, stick the foot in the dirt and, give you that one cut look is great. I think he's a strong runner. I mean, he can carry guys a couple, extra yards here and there. Not like a perfect short yardage back, but can definitely shows flashes of some strength, some power. But yeah, I think his contact balance is also pretty solid. I think that's something that's a plus for him. And he can move if he gets a gap of fresh air. He can kind of go and can get some breakaways. So I definitely like Giddens. I don't have him this high, but he, again, would be another guy that's just pretty close outside of the second round for me.
Yeah, a little bit of pass catching upside with Giddens as well.
Yeah.
50 catches in the last over the last 2 seasons. So he's a really interesting player. I'm keeping my eyes on him. He is certainly my guy in this class. And we'll talk about some more of those later on that maybe didn't even make our top 24.
He also lined up as a receiver on 12.5% of his snaps.
Well, there you have it. I mean, he's Christian McCaffrey.
It is.
All right, we are on number 22 for you.
22 for you is Mason Taylor, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have Elic Ayomanor here.
Okay.
Ayomanor is a detailed route runner, I would say. He's a clean player. He's quick off the line, good at the top of routes. I think that's his big, his calling card, I think, is as a crisp route runner. Good late separator against zone. I think he has good hands. He had a little bit of a higher drop rate this year, 8.7%, which is higher than you'd want it to be. But I think when you watch it, it seems like he has it's more so concentration than technique drops, I would say, which can be an issue and can definitely come up in big moments and can lose your trust from a quarterback pretty easily. But I think that's something that can pretty easily be cleaned up, because you also see some real highlight reel stuff from Ayomanor in one-handed catches and some real back shoulder stuff that's really impressive and going outside of his frame. I think he has really fluid hips. He sinks really well at the top of his routes and gets in and out. So this is higher than I've ever had him ranked so far. So here we are after revisiting the tape.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't really heard your take on Ayomanor yet, so this is interesting. He is my 28 player, so not super far off of this. I do the point about the hands. I think it is very interesting because he is one of those players that will flash, insane catch point talent, but also then he just drops regular passes. So it's always hard to figure out what to do with that. But outside of that, I do think his route tree at Stanford was not super developed. I think that's one of the areas for me that I'm looking to see or hoping to see development from him at the NFL level, because you can see how athletic he is at his size. The explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, the late separation that you're referencing. I mean, that shows up. So there's no question that he has the athleticism, within the frame that's certainly NFL ready. But I'm not entirely sure of how, what his ceiling is at the NFL level, because I haven't seen him run a ton of routes at this point. Also, hell of a blocker. So that's also going to come into factor here when you have a player, a bigger wide receiver that is, a willing and aggressive blocker. So, I like Ayomanor's game quite a bit.
So should I just go to my 21?
Sure.
Because do you want? You should do your 21. I feel like because I just gave my ranking.
They might be the same player.
It could be.
Harold Fannin?
No, I have Meyer.
Okay. Do you have a much higher?
A couple spots.
Okay.
18, I have him.
Okay. So this is, what's left to say about Harold Fannin? We've talked about Harold Fannin for months and months and months, going all the way back to the college football season. He was racking up badges here at Camp Dynasty, after a historic season at Bowling Green. Talked about him on tight ends 2.0. Still, there's obviously questions with his game, but it's very hard for me to create excuses for this player, or against this player.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one that's sitting here but this is why he's not going to work, because all I've ever seen on film is that he makes it work. The yards after the catch ability that he has. He's not a proficient route runner, but man, when you get the ball in his hands, great things happen consistently. He's a good catch point player, runs the seam well. He's not afraid with bodies coming down on him over the middle of the field. He's maybe a little bit of a project and maybe a bit of a scheme specific. We're going to have to figure out how to use him optimally, but he has rare skills at this position, and I'm just not going to be the one that, overlooks him.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. It's his hips are stiff and he runs kind of weird, and the route running against man is so, but he's so good. At the end of the day, can he play tight end well? Yeah, he can. He holds his own blocking. It's not like he's exceptional blocking, but he holds his own, and he's a damn good receiver. So at some point we got to stop just dropping him down the list because he's from Bowling Green and he looks a little funny when he runs. Okay, I get it. I watch it too, but he also put up 1 million yards and 100,000 touchdowns. So let's figure out maybe how we got there instead of shitting on him for being playing bad schools or whatever. But yeah, I'm a fan of Harold Fannin, but it's also he's not tight end 1, where I'm not going that far, but sit in the middle at 18 for me.
Also, of the 60 players that I have ranked right now, he is the second youngest in the class.
Right.
That is another huge part of this. He'll be 20 years old when he's drafted. He is a developmental tight end, and he has the runway to develop because he's only 20 years old.
Yep.
This is not a 5 years at Bowling Green 23-year-old player. He is a young and emerging talent at this position. So
yep.
All right, so your 21 then.
My 21 is Bhayshul Tuten. Do you have him lower, I'm assuming?
I do.
Okay. So I just feel like Tuten's gonna work. It's just that's the vibe I'm bringing to this. He is one of these backs that'll probably end up in some Shanahan scheme, and if he can find a starting role, I just feel like he'll be super productive. His acceleration is really good, and his long speed's even better. And that's kind of just where I'm landing is, no, he's not a short yardage back. No, he's not going to move piles. No, he's not going to like drop his shoulder and like bury a guy. But I think you put him in a backfield that's a zone scheme that opens up holes for him and he can just pick them up and go, then he can, average 6.5 yards a carry and be just a really productive running back in the league. And there's so many of those systems out there that I think he'll find a home and be able to make it work. If he doesn't, then so be it. And like maybe he's a name that we remember going back in the future. But I think if he can find one of those spots, he'll be really good.
Yeah, Tuten is. I like Tuten quite a bit. He is my 29th player right now. So he does sort of lead the 5th tier of running backs for me in this class. I like his game. There are questions for me relating to the size because he is a smaller back. 5'9", 206 is what he came in at. He also has a pretty glaring ball security problem. And like there's a lot of guys in this class alone that are like, you could say, yeah, they got to learn to take care of the ball. Tuten might be the most egregious one of this entire class.
9 fumbles in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So that is, there's times where you can sort of overlook it and say, all right, we're going to coach it up and we're going to make sure he keeps it high and tight and all that. But like Tuten, this is a serious hurdle for him where he needs to not put the ball on the ground. So
just give him a ball on draft day and tell him he can't put it down.
Yeah.
Just like hold it here for
shows up the training camp.
Yeah.
It's got like an imprint in his body.
Tape it to him. I don't know.
But so that's one of the, those are a couple of the areas that make me, at least a little bit hesitant or reserved about Tuten. But outside of that, I mean, his tape is very good. He is not just a, combine warrior, like we expected when he, obviously ran a ridiculous time, low 4.3 time at the combine. And that was something that we expected to see. Like that was nothing, shocking or anything like that. But he is not just that sort of a player as well. He does have legitimate change of direction skills. There's a little bit of power, even in a smaller frame. You will see him shrug off tacklers, run guys over occasionally, and then, it goes without saying, breakaway run ability, obviously it has that in bunches. So I do think there is, you're onto something with the prevalence of this wide zone, sort of outside Shanahanian run game and how, often we see that now in the NFL. I think Tuten is such a natural fit for that. And so as long as, he can hold on to the football and his body holds up, we could see one of the steals of the draft here with Tuten.
Small hands too, which is probably why he's a bad pass catcher and fumbles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, his pass catching numbers over the course of his career are kind of interesting because he was more involved as a pass catcher like a couple of years ago. And now it feels like over time, they've just lessened that workload for him.
He has 9 drops in the last 3 years.
There you have it. So,
yeah.
All right. So my number 20 player is Kyle Williams.
Okay.
Is that the first wide receiver we talked about?
Ayomanor.
Yes. Okay. So he did not make your 24.
He's on my top 24. I do like him.
Yeah. Kyle Williams just, I get it. He's small. I just can't ignore the flashes that you see from him as a route runner. He is legitimately I think I said it a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't call him an elite route runner as a prospect, but there are times on his film where you see things that you're like, wow, that was really, really top end. So I think for Williams to succeed, obviously he's going to need, I wouldn't call him a scheme independent player. I need to see where he lands and what that's going to look like. But I think with the speed and the athleticism that he has, along with the releases and the route running chops that he shows you that he has, also yards after the catch ability, I thought he was really nuanced in that area. Like, he is one of the players that he will like transition to a runner as he is catching the football. Like, he is like moving his body in motion as the ball comes to him to set himself up for yak. That's a trait that you see with like Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
And that also shows up with a player like Kyle Williams, I thought, in terms of that instinctual, like, I know where I need to move to set myself up to pick up yards after the catch. So I really like to see that. He's got catch point talent as well. The hands are smaller and there's been some drops, but like for a smaller player, he can go up and grab it as well. So I was really excited by his game, and I'm here at number 20.
Yeah, he's really good speed too. He's a solid deep threat, like you said, good after the catch, better than maybe you even realize, like watching, where he had the 8th best yards after catch per reception. He's 14th in missed tackles forced for wide receivers last year. Lacking in the things you would expect him to lack in, with like contested catch stuff and jump ball. He's same around 8% drop rate, as we were talking with Ayomanor. Is higher. Williams is at 7.8%. But yeah, I think like there is definitely a really good player here. And like he has the potential, like really high ceiling kind of player, where if he's molded in the correct way, then he could absolutely be a guy that can make plays after the catch and also like get open and get deep. So like that's a combination that you would really like to see. Like you said, the size maybe hurts him a little bit, but I wouldn't be like too concerned in the long run with it's the new era of the NFL. We're not gonna knock size too much.
Yeah, don't forget he's store brand Ladd McConkey. I mean,
right.
We said it here on This or That.
Yes.
So I mean, you like Ladd McConkey, right? So
there you go.
All right, your number 20 player.
Cam Skattebo.
Oh,
here we are. I know he's probably how much higher do you have him?
He's pretty significantly higher.
Okay, we can wait to talk about him then.
Okay. So my number 19. Why don't you go with your number 19?
Okay. My number 19 is Jihaad Campbell.
Okay.
So we are an IDP program, and here's our first IDP player that we're talking about. Campbell is my number 1 linebacker ranked. He's out of Alabama. And he's just like a freak of nature athlete that has great instincts. He gets downhill. He can cover sideline to sideline. You see some flashes in coverage. And like, that's all you can really ask for out of one of these kind of linebackers that you might be taking a chance on. He blitzed a lot at Alabama, lined up on the line of scrimmage a lot at Alabama. So he has some pass rush repertoire, and like you can send some funky packages with Campbell in your defense, which a lot of teams are moving to multiple defense. They're moving out of the stagnant 3-4, 4-3, whatever, and they're moving to more kind of casino packages and multiple packages, and like the Mike McDonald way of like anybody could be coming on a blitz in any given play, and Fangio doing the same thing. So Campbell can definitely fit in a lot of those kind of schemes where he can, kind of, I don't want to like say Edger and Cooper because that's the easy thing because we scouted him too, but it's a similar vibe to him where at A&M he went after the quarterback a lot. He actually played like QB spy a lot, which Jihaad can do and has done. But just like go use your athleticism, like however we can. And then you see Cooper translate pretty well into the NFL as like a guy that relies on instinct a lot, relies on athleticism a lot, and maybe could use some work in like the mental department, but like it still works really well and you still look really good on the NFL field like 75% of the time. I think Campbell can absolutely be that.
Yeah, no, it does feel too easy, but I think it's a good parallel to draw because, I mean, in Cooper's case, like he was a player that I think both of us had a few doubts about in terms of how his game would translate. And we saw what happened. And meanwhile, Campbell is a player that I feel like is the like better prospect version of like what Edgerrin Cooper offered last season. So that's kind of exciting when you think about, Cooper's game translated pretty well in the right scheme. What's going to happen with Jihaad Campbell? I remember on, IDP 2.0 rankings, at the time he was my number one linebacker, but I said, I don't necessarily think he's a first round talent at this position. And since that point, it feels like we've gotten to a point where he is like almost likely to go top 50. Like I'll be safe and say top 15, but there's been a lot of buzz about him going top 10 even recently. So that is a obviously premier draft spot for an off-ball linebacker. And Campbell, of course, offers the pass rushing upside that you mentioned, being a former edge player and a player that was playing off the edge even this last season for Alabama at times. So he is, very versatile, extremely athletic. He will be that sort of, the quote unquote chess piece on a defense where you can do a lot of different things with him. And so all of that is to say I have him at number 18. So we are almost spot on where we see this today. However, I do feel like there is going to be some upward momentum with Campbell. He feels like the sort of player that, like, I got some, wide receivers, running backs ahead of him today. It feels like under the right draft conditions, it might be pretty easy to talk yourself into Campbell being a high second round pick in a dynasty rookie draft. And I don't think that's being irresponsible because I think the talent certainly warrants it. And especially if he gets the vote of confidence of being a top 10 or 12 pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I could see him, ending up similar to like how Jamin Davis's arc went and he was coming out of Kentucky, which is a little different than having the Alabama seal of approval on you. So, but he went, mid first round, and it was like, oh, hello, like let's move him up the board. And I think Jihaad would even have a bigger bump than that because. Yeah. He's got a little more production, a little more of the SEC Alabama certified. Kentucky's in the SEC, so
yeah. But
I don't want to disrespect them in basketball.
Oh man, Will Levis. That's just if you you can't talk about Kentucky without talking about Kentucky football without talking about Will Levis. So
I can.
The problem for them, but
yeah, right.
All right. Well, number 19 for me is Jaylin Noel.
Who was your 20?
20 was Kyle Williams.
Okay.
Where is Noel for you?
I have him at 15.
Okay. So, I mean, I like Noel a lot. I feel like I feel like this name is really starting to pick up some momentum. I'm seeing a lot of people now like coming out and being like, hey, Jaylin Noel, like, I love this guy. He's one of my guys in this class. And I feel like it's because he is such a easy player to fall in love with. Even being a, 5'10", 194, an undersized wide receiver, but man, he just plays with so much toughness. He is such a scrapper, even at that size, willing blocker, will go up, in contested catch situations and come down with it. He's not afraid of taking hits over the middle of the field, playing out of the slot. And on top of all of that, he has this electrifying speed that makes him a terrifying deep threat for defenses as well. So I think he just offers so much. There's of course questions about the upside when you're talking about a player at this size, but I think he does so many things so well that he could be a legitimate number 2 wide receiver, even at this size, playing out of the slot at the NFL level. So I have him here at 19, and you're even higher than that.
Yeah, I have him at 15 again. Just like I feel like Noel has the recipe to be a dependable slot receiver with upside. Like, he's a guy that you can trust. Is great hands. 4.8% drop rate last year, 52% contested catch rate last year, and plays 73% of the snaps out of the slot. Like, this is a guy that comes in, he does the dirty work out of the slot. He plays in this Iowa State offense that we have much maligned by us, I would say, but put out impressive production nonetheless, and showed like some really good route running stuff. Like that is the hallmark of the game for Noel. Is he just is a clean route runner that is going to translate, I think, to the league pretty easily. And then easy speed for Noel, gets in a hurry and can run away from people with or without the ball. Like you said, could be a very good deep threat out of the slot. I love a slot deep threat. Give me on a slot fade. Give me some rub routes, all that kind of stuff. So, I also like him like as a through contact player, which is not always the case for a guy that's this size that plays mainly in the slot. I think that he, survives through contact really well, which you mentioned, like he's willing to take the hits and like doesn't really care. I think that you see that pretty clearly.
Yeah. Some players you can just tell by watching film that they are just gamers. Like he comes across just watching him on film as a no bullshit sort of dude. Like he's just out there to play ball. Like he's not afraid of taking a hit from a bigger player, getting crushed by a safety. Like he's just playing ball. And I think 25 contested targets is not an indictment of he can't separate.
Yeah,
that is an indictment of the quarterback play and the offense at Iowa State this last season. And for him to have 25 opportunities and come down with 13 for 52%, like you said, at 5'11", 52% contested catch rate at 5'11". I mean, that's Josh Downs-esque sort of stuff. And that shows up on film with his ability to go up and get it down the field. So he is a extremely fun player. All right.
And my 18 is Harold Fannin. Yours is Jihaad Campbell.
Yes. So 17.
17 is Matthew Golden.
Okay.
So how much higher do you have?
We are like literally
pretty close,
dead on with almost every single one of these. I have Golden at 16.
Okay. That is pretty impressive. So Matthew Golden, let's have this conversation because I don't know exactly how people are going to feel about him. If you're writing your comment, continue. I understand. So Golden is, I think we called him an industry plant.
Yes.
I agree with us on that. I think good job by them on that take, because it seemed like Golden, and I'll reiterate that he was at a point where it was like right around here, like mid-second round, and that was cool. And then after the end of the season, it was like, man, Matthew Golden kind of nice, like a good route runner, fast. And then comes the combine, and he runs the fastest combine, the fastest 40 at the combine, 4.29. And then it's like, all right, we got Golden fever. We're putting him in the top 15. And it's like, all right, let's not do that, because Golden, as much as like he has a lot of tools and he is like a fun receiver to like project, he's like not that different from A.D. Mitchell last year. And I know I'm doing a little bit of helmet scouting here, but like he's a fun route runner that has speed and like can get deep, and that's about it. Like he's not very good in contested catch situations. He's a 40% contested catch guy. He doesn't do much after the catch. 5.6 yards after catch per reception. Like this is a guy that has a pretty limited skill set and wasn't very productive. And like that's why I'm like, I don't know how we got here for consensus, but I don't super understand it.
Have you seen the conspiracy theory about his 40-yard dash time? Has this made its way to your...
I didn't engage with it.
I
But
don't blame you.
I saw it was like they started the clock late or something. It's like whatever.
So I wasn't gonna engage with it either. But then it was like there were legitimate accounts, like accounts that I trust.
Like who?
Like Sam Monson from PFF,
Okay.
like coming out and basically being like, this is kind of weird. And like
Okay.
we're doing like, frame by frame, like analyzation of the 40. I didn't want to get too far into it because I didn't want to, plant my flag and become a conspiracy theorist here. But like, it does kind of feel like something was off with the time. But like people were going frame by frame and like it was not matching up.
Who stands to gain if Matthew Golden is drafted top 20? Does Roger Goodell like get a bonus? Is that what's happening?
This is how the sports book effect has ruined football. We now had people putting in Matthew Golden, over
20.5,
yep.
And he's definitely going like 38.
There it is. We figured it out.
Okay, so take the unders.
But like regardless of all of that, he does not play that fast on tape. And like that is a widely held belief. Even if you like Matthew Golden a lot, I've seen people that like Matthew Golden a lot come out and be like, yeah, he doesn't play that fast on film. Like I thought he was fast, but like I didn't think he was that fast. So that's why I feel like there was such an overreaction to that time, because it was like, oh my God, you're telling me he actually does have 4.2 speed? Like he's that level of an athlete? Like, oh my God. Well, I guess if that's in there, we got to bump him up a little bit. When in reality, it was like, man, I don't think that that's how that should work. Like he doesn't show you that he plays that fast on film. And I feel like it's covering up a lot of the actual areas of weakness in his game. Like he is living and dying off of this 4.29 time.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that somehow his brand got built up as like he is a very, very, very high end route runner today. And like he's a good route runner. Like I'm not trying to sit here and say that he's not a good route runner, but like he is not at the level that people make it out to appear. Like he is not this like hyper polished, like walk into the league on day one and like, yeah, like the Stephon Diggs comp, and like week one, he's like embarrassing, like Jalen Ramsey or Pat Surtain or whatever. Like that's just
Jalen Ramsey, big 2025.
I'm a millennial. Sorry. It is just
Darrelle Revis. Is that who he's going to go up against?
Pat Peterson. Is he still around? But so I said this many times. It's no surprise if you've listened to us, talk for the last several weeks. Like we are obviously lower on the player than what is being talked about in many cases. But I really do think like the pendulum is maybe starting to swing back. Like I feel like I've started to see more and more people now being like, yeah, Golden's fine. He's like a round 2 player. It was like, just because DJ had him at number 12 in a mock draft, it was like the floodgates had opened for like a 2-week period of time. But I think now we're maybe starting to get back to reality where he is, and maybe he will go like in the 20s in the NFL draft. And like, I don't agree with that, but that's fine, because it is, after a certain point, this wide receiver class opens up pretty significantly. And if you need a wide receiver, Golden could be like your guy in that range, and that's whatever. But yeah, long story short, I just think there's a lot of areas in his game that need to be cleaned up. His play strength is not very good in my opinion, and he is undersized, so that also coincides. So I'm skeptical, but I have him at number 16.
Yep. All right. Who do you have at number 17?
17, I have Tre Harris.
Okay. I have Tre Harris at 16.
How did we pull this off?
I don't know.
This may be the closest we've ever been in 3 years.
It seems like it, especially in the second round. I mean, it's only going to get closer as we get higher.
So Tre Harris, I mean, it's no surprise again. Like he's a player that we've talked about for a very long time, all the way back to last season when we expected anticipated that he could be in the 2024 draft, but opts to go back to school, has a ridiculous start to the 2024 season, and then obviously that was cut short. We've talked about it. Like he was on pace to have a potentially Biletnikoff level season for Ole Miss this last year, and unfortunately his season was cut short. So he really did break out. I think he showed some things this season that I was a little bit skeptical of him coming into the year. In terms of his ability to stretch the field. I still don't think he is, a high level X receiver, like let him run 9 balls and like get open over the top consistently sort of a player. I do think he is still best suited for a slot sort of role, more of like the Rashee Rice type of role. I think that's how you get the most out of Tre Harris at the NFL level. But I think the door is open for him to do a little bit more than that based on what he showed us this last year.
Yeah, I think I'm like becoming more of a Tre Harris fan. I was all in at one point, and then I kind of came back a little, and now we're working our way back up because I think like Tre Harris is a better route runner than a lot of people give him credit for because
Absolutely.
he's a big guy, and like you see him as a 9-ball runner a lot in this Ole Miss offense. Like they have him running flies and just like going up and getting it pretty often. And if you watch his like highlights, just straight highlights, like that's what you're going to see a lot of. And I think there's a lot more that he can and should be doing on a field. I think he could be an X receiver, but he's better suited as more of like a flex option of a guy that you can move around all over the field because he has so many like different releases off the line of scrimmage. He has off the top of the route, like he can be physical with a corner, but he can also beat him just with his feet. So like, I think there's a lot of things that he can do outside of like, I don't think he's a very fast player. Like he's just like, isn't. He can stack well and he can go up and get it. He has over 60% contested catch rate in his last 2 years. Like that's absurd. And you see that he has huge hands and he's impressive tracking the ball. But I really like all of the different things that he does well. And I hope a team like sees it and doesn't say like, all right, you're our X and you're going to do, what Davante Adams did for years and you're going to just win and do what, they did in the Matt LaFleur Davante Adams of like, you're going to play X sometimes, you're going to play Y sometimes, you're going to play Z sometimes, and we're going to play matchup games, and we're going to get you the ball behind the line of scrimmage sometimes. And I'm not trying to compare him to Davante Adams. I'm just I'm a Packers fan, so Davante Adams comes to mind as like a guy that played X for a while and then started moving around. That's the only reason.
Flip it. He said Tre Harris is Davante Adams.
Yeah, Tre Harris is Davante Adams. So. Oh, man. But, yeah, I like Harris a lot, and I think that there's a lot of different ways that he becomes a successful receiver in the NFL.
So, number 15 for me is a player that you're going to have higher, but I'm wondering how much higher, and it's Devin Neal.
I'm at 9.
Didn't even need to say.
No.
So, do you want to wait? Should we wait?
We can wait. I have Jaylin Noel here at 15.
You have Jaylin Noel at 15. Okay.
I do.
So 14, I have Jayden Higgins at 14.
Too.
I mean, come on. So I think a lot of what we just talked about with Tre Harris could apply to Jayden Higgins as well. I think very similar players in terms of how to project them to the NFL. I do think Harris showed a bit more, like he gave you a little bit more to cling on to believe he could be he could fill an outside role, like maybe not full time at the NFL level, but like he could certainly play the position. Whereas I'm a little bit more skeptical about Higgins playing on the outside, or at least playing like as an X wide receiver in the NFL. But man, I just think he is such a perfect like power slot option. Like he does that role so well. Those routes, like consistently his best routes on film are like slants, crossing routes, like getting into the middle of the field, using his big frame, like being a bear to tackle and just kind of being a bully over the middle of the field. And then also showing up, in the red zone for a player that is 6'4", 214, long arms, big hands. Like he goes up and snags the ball. So I think he is a versatile player, but I do have, I'm ranking him high. He's at 14, but this is coming with a pretty big caveat. And we can go all the way back to when we talked about him on Wide Receiver 2.0. And I was saying the same damn thing. He really is a player that I think needs to play from the slot. And if they're going to if a team drafts him and tries to put him outside, I do think he's going to have a pretty difficult time adjusting.
Yeah, I would like to see him a majority of the time at the slot. I think he can play outside, but I think a majority of the time he should be playing that slot role. He's a really strong route runner. This is another guy that should be. You don't want him isolated on the outside with the ref looking right at him. I don't think that's where you're going to succeed, because he'll throw some push-offs, some subtle push-offs where you're not necessarily going to flag him for OPI, but if you're on the outside, you're more likely going to be called for that. He has great hands, some of the best in the class, 2.2% drop rate, 55.6% contested catch rate through all of his college career. That's really impressive, really consistent. Again, very strong player. I think that's the golden trait that he has, is his play strength is awesome, and he's a good blocker. And that's, again, another reason to put him in the slot. If you're going to come run his way, he can, seal a safety, or help on a linebacker, or take out a corner. He can do those kind of things. And so I really think he's going to absolutely find a spot, and a coach is going to love a player like this. So I'm all in.
Matt Harmon put out the big red tree for Jayden Higgins.
Oh, and then it's over. Maybe I should have ranked him. I didn't see that.
That's the thing. We talked about this when we talked about Travis Hunter, when all green and Higgins was almost all red. And what did Matt Harmon say?
Read the article.
Put him in the damn. Well, yes, he did say read the article, but he also said put him in the slot.
Said the same thing about Keon Coleman. The Bills didn't listen.
Yeah, well, and exactly, and see what happened.
He wasn't very productive.
All right. Where are we?
We are at 13.
13 for you is
Colston Loveland.
Okay.
I know you probably have him higher.
I do have him higher.
How much higher?
I have him at number 10.
Okay, so 3 spot difference.
We're in the range.
Yeah. So Loveland is a really smooth tight end. One of, if the other guy didn't exist, it'd pretty easily be tight end 1 in this class. I think he's, we haven't talked about a tight end in a little while. I mean, Fannin for me was at 18. I think, what was he at for you? 21. Yep. Yeah. So this is a pretty big jump from 3 to 2. And it's because he is a really polished player. He's a strong tight end player, or tight end. He's a good route runner. He's good after the catch. He's not exceptional. He's not a great tackle breaker, which is what separates him and the number 1 guy pretty significantly, because, I'll beat it to death. It's if you can't run after the catch as a tight end, I'm good. And he only averaged 5.4 yards after catch per reception. So that's the red flag for me. But as a guy before the catch that can get open, as somebody that is really nuanced against zone, he is definitely a player that will find, plenty of receptions in a game. He will, work with a quarterback really well as a safety valve kind of player, and then also has the upside to be just a solid receiver through the rest of the game, and a guy that can hold it down at the end of the line as a blocker. So you can flex him out into the slot, you can have him in line, and he'll be able to play both. So I like Loveland a lot. You like him more?
Yeah, I love Loveland. I really do. And I truly believe that there is a world where Loveland ends up being the best tight end from this draft class. Like, I do think that, like, Tyler Warren is exceptional and amazing today, and I think he can continue to develop and become like an elite tight end at the NFL level. I think Loveland offers all of that and maybe even more, in terms of his frame and the ways that he plays this position. I mean, I feel like he is like a fantasy superstar. There's a fantasy superstar in there with this player. I have him at number 10. I thought about putting him higher, honestly, but I feel like this is as high as I can go with him in this class. That's just to say, like, he is phenomenal. Like, 10 for a tight end feels like, oh man, it's kind of high. Like, we're taking him in the late part of the first round. You could stick him right next to Tyler Warren in this class, and I wouldn't even be upset about that. It's like you could take Warren one pick and take Loveland the next pick, and I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, yep. That's how much I love the talent, respect the talent of Loveland. But yeah, I mean, I've said many times I think he works best as a 85% slot tight end, whereas Warren is a little bit more traditional and I wouldn't necessarily say traditional, but I think you can play Warren in line more comfortably than you can Loveland. Warren also offers, a lot of untraditional elements as well. But I think Loveland maybe even, can continue to develop into a player, add some play strength as a player that can play in line more. And then we're really in business, because if he's not just a pure slot, receiving threat at tight end, then I think that unlocks the doorway for him to become, a top 5 tight end in the NFL.
Yep, I would agree. I think that there's definitely a pathway where he could be, one of those dynasty tight ends that are at the top of the list. All it takes is, a good rookie season, really, and you join, the top names that are sitting there right now.
Can you tell I really fought myself on where to put it?
Yeah, right.
I feel like I was like
this is as high as I could put him.
I was
damn it, I wanted to put him higher, but I couldn't.
Oh, I fought with myself on that one quite a bit, but 10 is still very high for a tight end. It's okay. Yes. It's okay. All right. Number 13 for me is Abdul Carter.
I have him at 12.
So he's IDP 1, obviously, for me in the class. It's a testament to what I think about the players ahead of him that comprise my first round, that he did not make the first round, because he absolutely could have. And for you, he did make the 12 spot. I mean, he is an exceptional edge talent. He is the Micah Parsons, comparisons are going to be like the low hanging fruit, way too easy, cliche, but like, I think it's sometimes too easy is too easy for a reason. I feel like that is a parallel you can draw, a comparison you can make and not feel bad about it. And if he takes that leap and if he becomes that player, he's absolutely worthy of first round selection in your dynasty rookie draft. So I don't know. There's been some weird, with the shoulder injury, there's been some weird buzz with him about where he's going to go on NFL draft day. I don't think any of that is going to factor in when it's all said and done. I still think he's a no doubt top 3 pick in the upcoming draft.
He posted the Lawrence Taylor thing on Instagram. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, it was just a picture of Lawrence Taylor.
Oh my God.
And I was like, yeah, close enough. Welcome back.
Wait, so Shedeur has a private workout with the Giants, and Abdul Carter is posting Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah,
we are getting smoked so hard.
We are. The Giants are doing their due diligence. But
as they should.
On the post, it's like a trading card of Lawrence Taylor, or maybe it's a magazine cover. But on the bottom left, it says Lawrence Taylor, quote, once a Giant, always a Giant. So.
I mean, that's kind of sick.
It is kind of sick when you can call your shot of I'm going 3 overall. Yeah. That's pretty cool. But He's earned it. It's a player that has, switched over to pass rusher this year from linebacker and was absolutely dominant as a pass rusher. Could have used some work in the run game with his hands and his play strength and like his meeting the offensive lineman on his terms, maybe. But like the fact that he's this good has 1 year into doing this is unbelievable. So I am excited to see the next chapter, whether that's with the Giants or not. Maybe unretire 56 and throw it on. No, I'm joking. Don't get mad at me, please. I'm joking. But no, I'm excited to see what he does. Maybe he can do 11 justice on like Isaiah Simmons. He's 9.
Oh,
he's
9 visiting with the Packers. How do you feel about that?
I'm good. I'm all right. We have enough weird linebackers that can't think.
Amen. All right, where are we? 13 for you?
13 was Loveland. 12 was Carter.
Right. 12 is Carter. So 12 for me then is Cam Skattebo. And here we go.
Okay, here we go.
So he does make my first round. Had I believe it was what was supposed to be a Ty Curry take last week, that he was going to fall to the 5th round.
Right.
And it's completely a world, like that's not a world that I think is out of the question. Like,
and you still would draft him 12th.
And right now I'm telling you, just based on my evaluation of the talent, I would take him number 12. Now, we talked about it last week. If he does go on like in the 5th round or like later on day 3, what happens? Because I know I'm not the only person that really likes Cam Skattebo and that's considering drafting him in Dynasty, at least somewhere in this range. And even for you at pick, what was it, 20? I mean, even at that point, if he gets a 5th round draft spot, you're like, that's kind of, what do I do with that? And I still believe, and it's easy to say this today, I still believe he's the sort of running back where you can tell yourself the story of why he fell. And therefore it's because it makes sense. You're like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay, if he went to a spot where there's a running back spot available for him to seize, I feel like I would be irresponsibly overdrafting him, even if he was a 5th round pick.
I'm going to interrupt.
Yeah.
I feel like all these players were like, yeah, this is who he is. This is what he does well. And you're like, Cam Skattebo, I don't care if he goes in round 5, damn it. I'm still taking him at 12.
I'm bracing for impact.
Yeah, right. It's like, you don't have to defend him yet. Nothing's happened. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. And I shouldn't get too far ahead of myself. I've just seen this happen before.
No, I know.
It's like, it feels like he really is the sort of player that does have a dramatic draft day fall. But I mean, to talk about why is he at number 12 and what do I love about the player? I mean, he's just a phenomenal running back. The contact balance is truly exceptional. He is a yard creator through and through. It takes an army to bring this guy down. He can get outside. He can run up the middle. He's a great pass catcher. I mean, there's really not a lot in his game not to love outside of the fact that he does not have top end speed. Like he is a player that if he breaks through the 2nd level, he is going to lose steam very quickly. And it will not be a 60-yard touchdown. It'll be a 30-yard gain. And that's fine because he's doing that consistently. Like he is consistently turning 2-yard gains into 10-yard gains. And I'll take that over a player that is just out there to hit home runs.
Yeah, no, I think that Skattebo can absolutely be like a really good committee back. And like that's why he ends up at 20 for me, because like I just don't see him as the featured back workhorse in an offense, even though he has like the physical skills and ability to like be a like quote unquote workhorse back. I think that's like of old, the 25 carry guy that's like you don't really want to do a toss play for him because he's I think you got to get him going downhill in order for him to be effective. But I think he can be really effective when he's going downhill. I think that's the plus what you see out of Skattebo is like when he's going between the tackles, when he's getting like a duo, an inside zone, a trap where he is just like bearing down and he gets ahead of steam and he's putting his shoulder down and bouncing like a pinball between D linemen and linebackers and coming out the other side and falling forward. Like that's the like good stuff you're seeing out of Skattebo. That's the stuff where you are like, this is a winning running back. When you see any other way that he's used, it's like, it leaves a little to be desired. He also like can be a solid check down guy. I think he's got like pretty good hands. He's not going to like run routes for you, but he can be a safety valve outlet and he can like throw his body around in pass protection. So I think there's a world where he is like a good goal line back that is a short yardage guy and changes pace from like an Achane, where a guy that is, a scat back that can, break off the 70-yard run, but you don't really want in your goal line situation. So where you have these, what I talked about Bhayshul Tuten at 21, where you have these guys that are small and fast and like, that's great that he can hit a home run, but when you need 2 yards, who you put in the backfield. And I think that's where you will find a ton of value with Skattebo.
We'll have further conversations about Skattebo post-draft, I feel. One way or another, he's going to be a source of a lot of conversation after the draft. But
definitely.
Number
11.
Number 11.
Yeah.
For
me is Emeka Egbuka.
And me too.
Okay, here we go. So Egbuka, we talked about. Did we do spicy takes last week?
Yeah.
Feels like a long time ago.
Time is
been a long week. But Egbuka has been a player that is pretty varied on where he might end up in the draft. Some people really like him. Some people think he's fine. And like, I can see why in both cases. I lean more towards I really like him because I think he's just a professional wide receiver. Like that's the big and the small of it. And like, I can go into like, he's a pretty solid route runner. He's okay after the catch. He has really reliable hands. He finds the sticks. He finds soft spots and zones. Like he knows where to be, knows when to be there. He has great size. He has great physicality. He can do it outside, but he is exceptional in the slot. He came in for Jackson Smith and Njigba in 2023 and was just like replicated the stats. Like he was not a drop off from JSN as a player who went like 21 overall to the Seahawks in his draft class. So he's a player that absolutely has more upside than given credit for, though not the upside of some of the other guys or some of the like high tier guys of years past. So it's a little bit of like, I like him, but I can't love him because he's a little bit capped compared to like some of the really good, like Travis Hunter, let's say, where we'll talk about him later. But like the ceiling for Hunter is like unattainable almost. Like he could be whatever. Egbuka, I think, is a little bit athletically limited and is kind of close to where his ceiling will be, but I think that raises his floor really high.
I mean, honestly, Egbuka, like, the way that he tested, and yes, these were pro day numbers, but like, I feel like he sort of like came out and put a big like statement out on the board by running the, 4.48 or whatever it was at the pro day. I mean, even if it was fake, like as long as he's around 4.5, that's really all that I would need to see from him, because I wouldn't have expected him to be much quicker than that. I mean, or faster than that, I should say. He's a quick player. He's just, I don't see him as a fast player. But the point about like ceiling and floor, and like we have this conversation every year, so much of it also is tied to scheme and role. Like, I feel like in a vacuum, it's really easy to say like X is a high ceiling player versus Y is a low floor player. And then you see things like, Puka Nacua goes to the Rams and he's in this perfect role to like get funneled targets, and then suddenly he's like a wide receiver 5 overall in fantasy. So it's like Egbuka is the sort of player where I think in the right scheme and in the right role, he can be a high volume target for an NFL team. It's just that I don't think he, like you said, offers the same level of theoretical upside as the players ahead of him in this class. But I think what he offers versus the players below him in this class, because he sits at a sort of like a pivot point for me in terms of the wide receiver class, where I have like the guys ahead of him are like guys that I think have really, really high ceilings, like project them as like, potentially high end to elite NFL wide receivers. And the guys below are like, they're pretty scheme limited. And like, I think they're good players, but like, I'm not sure what it looks like. Whereas Egbuka is kind of right in the middle of that all, where it's like, I know you're a good player. I just don't know how good, meaning how productive you're going to be in the NFL based on what you showed me this last season. Now, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have told you, wheels up. Like he's, maybe not JSN, but he's not far off. Mm-hmm. So I do think that player is still in there, and I'm really excited to see where he gets drafted to. And I'm hoping it's a spot that I can like easily talk myself into, like, we are going to get the best version of Egbuka, because I think he is a very high end player under the right conditions.
Yep, I agree. And almost 55% contested catch rate. Like he's like I said, the play strength is really good. This is a guy that is going to start and going to play in the slot for a really long time. I don't know, maybe it's Tyler Boyd, but Tyler Boyd's not a bad player.
Yeah. Maybe it's Tyler Boyd. Maybe it's Tyler Boyd, the sequel.
Who came up with that? That's a good idea.
We have a lot of fun on this or that, man. It's a blast. All right. Number 10 for you. Did we already do that?
We both had Egbuka at 11?
Yeah.
Okay. It's TreVeyon Henderson.
Okay.
So, I'm at 9. Yeah, I'm at 9. Who'd you have? You had Egbuka at 11. Okay. So, TreVeyon Henderson is a really good running back. Like, I think that's to be said. And I think that...
Shut it down right there.
Yeah,
Move on.
Good running back. Okay. What do you have to say? No. Henderson has been getting a lot of buzz, that he might be a first-round pick, and that's going to drive him up the draft board. I think that's just kind of happens when running backs get drafted in the first round. I don't blame you. Right now, sitting at 10 because I don't know enough about TreVeyon's like health, and like I think there's some concerns with that. He played 4 years at Ohio State, mostly because he didn't come out after his junior year because of a couple injuries, and like all lower body injuries, all things that could be nagging, things that you could be concerned about in the future. Another thing is like, I don't love that they felt the need to bring Judkins in after his junior year, because like he was like really good his sophomore year, and then his junior year again, he was banged up, all that. And then they bring in the number 1 transfer portal running back, and it's like, well, why did you feel the need to do that if TreVeyon's as good as he is? And when you watch the tape, like TreVeyon is really good. He's between the tackles. He is really like clean, especially that sophomore stuff when he was the number 1 running back, because senior year they kind of deferred a lot of between the tackles work to Judkins, but not all of it. And TreVeyon still looked quite good. The speed is obviously the thing with TreVeyon. He is quick, he's explosive, he's fast, and he can, burn you if you give him a gap. He's a pretty solid pass catcher. He has pretty good vision. So there's a lot of pros with TreVeyon that gets him up here. I wonder if he can be a lead the backfield guy. That's the spot where I drop him down a few pegs compared to the top end of this class.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me. I mean, I still like I respect his talent so much that I'll have him up here at number 9, even as a player that is undersized. I mean, he's 5'10", 202. Like this is not a big back, and there's a lot of backs in this class that are, very prototypical in their size. Henderson is not one of them. And I think the question of can he be the lead back, I would say no. But I still think his skills are so dynamic and so essential that he will have a significant role at the NFL level. I don't think he is ever the 1A or like just the one. I think he works best with a running mate, and I think that's why they brought in Judkins. And I think we saw why that was such a great situation, because it really was Judkins is your, on base percentage player, and TreVeyon is your home run hitter. And I feel like that is how he works best at the NFL level as well. And that's why I still think for fantasy purposes, even if he isn't a lead back and he's not getting 20 carries a game, I still think he has a role that is very fantasy friendly in the sense that any carry can turn into a home run touchdown. And I do think he is talented enough that he will have plenty of opportunities to hit those home runs at the NFL level. So I know a lot of people love Henderson. I know there's the first round buzz with him right now, and I think the reason for that is because of that dynamic speed. But I still think there are enough questions here about the role and what that's going to look like moving forward for me to say, like, yeah, he's a slam dunk, like fantasy RB1 in the making. But like it goes to show how much I respect the great parts of his game to have him still here in the top 10.
So who do you have at number 10?
10, I have Loveland.
Oh, that's right.
9, I have Henderson.
And 9 I have Devin Neal.
You have Devin Neal.
That's right. So time to talk about Devin Neal, my favorite part of this show. So
I sense some like reluctance when you said, I guess you've been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah, I feel scared about talking about Devin Neal, kind of like how you felt like you had to qualify everything with Camp Skattebo. I feel that way about Neal. Like I have him at 9, and that felt like kind of low at one point, and now we've come all the way back around to like, how could I possibly have him at 9? And like, I don't know, I think he's a really good player. I think he has incredible feet, and he has some power, and he has like really good agility. The long speed isn't there. I get it. And that's why he's at 9, sitting at 10 with TreVeyon as like a guy that probably isn't going to be a full-time number 1 running back in an offense. I think Neal can handle it. I think you saw that at Kansas of like, he can be a guy that can get a ton of carries and can be a guy that can convert a ton of carries into a really efficient production. And that's due to like evolving his game year after year. I think he's a little bit of like a gadgety back last year, and he turned into a trademark real running back last year, or in 2024, turned into like a real running back, go between the tackles, take some punishment, deliver some punishment. I think he did really well. The quickness, the agility is a little bit less than it was in 2023, 2024, but like it's still there. You still absolutely see flashes. The burst is still there. You still see flashes. It's just the long speed that I think is a big knock for him. And then the pass catching, I think, is a untapped well for this player that they used a little bit at Kansas, but I think he could be a really good screen back too, based on what he did as like in like trick plays and like random tosses and like all the misdirection that they did 2 years ago. So I am excited for Devin Neal. I am probably higher on Devin Neal than a lot of people, but I'm going to plant my feet in the ground. I said a few months ago, don't let me put TreVeyon over Devin Neal. And now we're all the way to the point where like Devin Neal might be a 4th round pick and TreVeyon might be a 1st round pick, but I'm standing firm.
And you will always be the torchbearer for Devin Neal, but honestly, it feels like we collectively are probably higher on Devin Neal now than a lot of people are. I mean, I have him at 15. I just feel like every time I hear about him, it's like a round later than before. Like it was like first it was like, yeah, he's maybe like a second round pick, and then it was third round, and now all of a sudden he's like falling into day 3, and in some cases like deep into day 3. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like he is the embodiment of like, maybe he's not the sexiest runner anymore. And
right.
that's the weird part, because I think last year, meaning in 2023, like you might have said he was a little bit too flashy, a little bit too much pizzazz, like, but can he actually play the position in the way that he's going to need to play it at the NFL level? And now it feels like 1 year later, it's like, now he's just like the boring, like, I'm going to get the yard, I'm going to find the hole, I'm going to get the yards, and I'm going to do the thing. Like, and now everyone's like, hey, he's fine. He's just a fine player. I think the stats kind of outline that as well. 47 missed tackles forced this year compared to 60 last year, and that was on more carries this year. So if a fairly sizable fall off in terms of missed tackles. He did raise the yards after contact per attempt number just a hair this year. I think he added weight, and I think he just became a different runner this year. He lost a little bit of that lateral explosiveness that made him such an enticing watch 2 years ago, but it came, by giving himself more of a chance to be a legitimate running back at the NFL level, a between the tackles runner that has incredible vision.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something that is lost with Neal, is how well he sees the field and how well he diagnoses a play to pick up the yards that other backs might not be able to find. Yep. And maybe he's not as explosive as he once was, but there's still that player in there. He can still make guys miss. He can still make guys look silly at times even. So I'm still very excited about Neal. I don't know what's going to happen on NFL draft day, but I still think he is such a solid back. And I think he's the kind of back that even if he goes later in the draft, he's like Bucky Irving-esque to me, where in the sense, not in terms of a player stylistic comp, but in the sense that like maybe the numbers or maybe the noise is telling you like fade Devin Neal, but like he's just a great player, and he's gonna find a role at the NFL level.
I agree.
All right. So we are on number 8.
Yep.
And my number 8 is Quinshon Judkins.
Okay. My number 8 is oh wait, I'm not supposed to say that. Quinshon Judkins is my number 6.
So why don't you tell me what you like about Judkins? You have him higher.
I think Judkins, he's my last running back of my top tier running backs, if that makes sense. Yep. I think that he's the last of the guys that could lead a backfield. Judkins, I mean, I have always been pretty high on him. I think there's a lot of things that are really good about him, but first and foremost is like athleticism and power are like the two big pluses for Judkins. He is like compact, but can also like open up his stride and go. Is not like the fastest player in the world, but he's also like has some to burn if he needs to. But as a guy that can do a lot of different things, he can go between the tackles, he can get outside, he has a variety of moves in the open field that can make people miss, in addition to like the devastating like drop his shoulder and just punish defenders for getting in his way. That's like the things that he did at Ole Miss, of the change of direction and the vision and bouncing and using his agility more, to the Ohio State version of Judkins, where he's just get downhill and put a defender on his back, is like a stark contrast. and both are like a really good player. And I want to see the version of like the fusion of those players when he's an NFL player, because while I love the version of him that's played at Ohio State, where he was, an integral piece to that championship run, a guy that they'd put in on the goal line, has the things that TreVeyon might struggle with, I would still like to see the extra agility that he showed when he was at Ole Miss. And I think like you and I even saw flashes of that when we were at the combine, where that was kind of like a real eye-opening experience of like, man, we feel like Judkins is more athletic than he showed at Ohio State. And then he goes out and just dominates at the combine every single drill. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of what we expected. Like, why don't we really see that on tape? And we've seen it in the past, so that's why it's not like the Matthew Golden thing where it's like, okay, you're this athletic and like you do all these things in gym shorts, but why don't you do it on the field? I think you've seen both with Judkins, but both kind of segmented.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, Judkins was like,
he was our number one player before the year.
He was my second running back in the class coming into the year, but he was more of a 1B for me. Like I had Hampton at 1 and Judkins at 2, but they were a 1A, 1B sort of situation. Like this was not a player that, this year was the outlier. This was his outlier year, and it was because it was so different than his first 2 seasons at Ole Miss in terms of how he ran, in terms of what was asked of him. I mean, 76 missed tackles forced as a freshman, 78 as a sophomore. That fell all the way down to 43 this year. Yes, it was on less carries, but still proportionally it was down from the prior 2 years. The yards after contact per attempt number, we talked about this on Running Back 2.0. It was low this year, 3.04. But when you watch the film, it's really not indicative of how he ran. He was a player that was running through contact consistently enough that I'm like, I'm not going to look at this number and say, man, he's not a power. Like he's not a runner that's capable of running with power and running through contact. Like I've seen that on film from him, and especially this year where that was dialed up, in my opinion, to another level compared to where he was at Ole Miss. So he was a weirder eval than I was hoping that he would have been this year. I was really hoping he was just going to be a no doubt, like he's going to Ohio State. He's going to put it all on film for the 3rd consecutive year, and he's going to be the no doubt number 1 player. And that's not what happened. But I don't think that means he's not a really, really good player, potentially a great player, and one that I think, still has a lot to give at the NFL level.
Yep.
All right, so number 8 for you.
8 for me. Who was I going to say?
You were going to say Tyler Warren.
Right. Where do you have him?
And he's number 7 for me.
Okay. So Tyler Warren, what a unique player. That's I think the tagline for him, where he's like an awesome tight end. He's a great athlete. He's huge. Like that's cannot be overstated. A real NFL type body. He played all over the field. I think you probably heard him talked about that way as we've gone through all this draft content, is like Tyler Warren played Wildcat quarterback and he ran the ball, and that's all true. And that's why I love Tyler Warren, because he can get the ball and do stuff with it in his hands. And he is like, he can read blocks and he can leverage blocks, and he can be like a QB sneak guy, which is apparently necessary now in the NFL because the QB sneak is, fully a real thing, while they may be banning the tush push. Like you see the Packers do it with Tucker Kraft and like line him up under center and have him do a QB sneak. You see the Chiefs do it. When you have a quarterback that's bad at QB sneaks or that you really don't want to get injured, maybe you throw your tight end and do it. And like if you have Tyler Warren, you have a really good excuse to use him to do it. But he's also just good as a pure tight end as well. It doesn't have to be a gimmicky role to have him succeed. I think he can absolutely just be a pure tight end and like be a good receiver, and then, break people off and get the ball in the flat and get 10 yards when he's probably supposed to get 2 and carry some people. So there's a lot of positives to Tyler Warren. I just think that he'll be, a contributor day one.
Yeah, no, totally. I feel like, the argument between him and Loveland, like which one is a better route runner today, I might say it's Loveland, but like Warren's carrying about 10 extra pounds, at least according to how they weighed in at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it is extremely impressive. Warren's movement skills at almost 260 pounds. Like he is an exceptional route runner at that size. So I think, like you said, there's so much to love about his game. There's so much to consider with his game in terms of a fantasy impact. Not only does he have the tight end skills to be a premier tight end, but he's also a player that could get mixed in a variety of different ways. I mean, including, down to the quarterback sneak, which guess what? That's 6 points, just like any other touchdown. So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, he is that sort of a, what could be type of a player, but I think even at the baseline of what you're getting, he's still, very worthy of this sort of a draft pick.
Absolutely. And he's also going to go he's going to go really high.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an indicator of where you should draft him.
So you have number 7 still, right?
I do have number 7 still. Luther Burden. So where do you have Luther Burden?
Take a guess.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was looking at the spots we have left. And I just have your super flex rankings up, so it's kind of a tell. Yeah.
Okay.
But all right. So Luther Burden.
This is your last chance before the draft.
I know.
Make your case.
I'm kind of scared. I feel like I'm. All right. Luther Burden is a dynamic athlete after the catch. Yes, that has been said before. He is a really good slot. The 85% of his routes out of the slot, roughly. I think get the ball in his hands and go. Yes, absolutely do that as an NFL team, but also just let him develop as an NFL wide receiver, and he can surprise you and become a real dynamic number 1 wide receiver that you can funnel the ball to, because while he is potentially gimmicky screen, yak, tunnel, bubble wide receiver, I think you can absolutely develop this guy into a good route runner, because he's already a pretty solid route runner that had to deal with a really bad quarterback, and that doesn't necessarily motivate you to do everything 100% all the time, because they rotated through a bunch of quarterbacks his last year and it was all pretty ugly. But I think he could be a strong route runner because there's already a foundation here, and then add on a good catcher of the football, a natural catcher of the football, and then a great runner after the catch. So you add all those things together, and there's not a ton of weakness. Yeah, he's not a great contested catch guy. He's got kind of a small frame. I think there are some drawbacks, but I think when you're going down the list of things you want your wide receiver to do well, he checks almost all of those boxes. I don't think I did a good job.
I would say he is a great contested catch guy.
All right, there you go. Check that box too.
I think that's one of the things that's I'll keep hanging on, and I'm willing to sink with this ship, even though it seems
56% contested catch percentage. That's
55% over the last 2 seasons combined. I mean, it shows up on film. He makes ridiculous catches down the field. He's got the body control. That's where some of the Malik Neighbors stuff came from last year.
Right.
Where when we were talking about him preseason, it's is he in for the Neighbors climb this year because of what he just did and some of the skills he was flashing along the sideline? I mean, very reminiscent of Malik Neighbors pre-breakout. And it went so awry this year. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that the effort concerns and the character concerns aren't potentially a thing that could impact him, but I'm also not going to be the one that's going to make that judgment.
Yeah, that's not how I'm scouting.
So I'm just looking at what I see on the field, and I mean, this was a bad year. Statistically, of course, everybody understands that, but we've talked about some of the factors that played into that. I didn't think this was a terrible year of film. In fact, I was coming out of summer scouting almost looking for a reason to fade Luther Burden, because I was very skeptical about his route tree at Missouri, how he was used, and how it could translate to the NFL level compared to where he was being talked about, potentially first overall in the NFL draft, which is
that was a real thing that happened.
Yeah. So I was give me a reason to be vindicated in thinking that he is not this premier talent at wide receiver. And it feels like I got that reason with a 600-yard season and everybody kind of being yeah, I'm good. He's a second-round pick. And I feel like I came away from this season being even more confident. Oh yeah, he's solid. Because he overcame so many things this year, even to get himself to a almost 700-yard season in the face of the adversity within this offense. Were there effort concerns because the offense wasn't as prolific as it was the year before? Potentially. Is that a red flag? Of course it would be, because he's going to run into obstacles at the NFL level, but he's got rare skills as a wide receiver, most notably, of course, after the catch. But I do think the catch point stuff is legitimate as well. He is still a bit of a work in progress as a route runner because they weren't asking him to run the full tree at Missouri. But I still thought even this year you got a little bit more from him than what I saw the year prior in terms of working intermediate and deep down the field more often. So I'm still in, and I'm willing to die with this one.
So my wide receiver wants the ball.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? So does every other wide receiver.
You know who else is vocally frustrated all the time about not getting the ball enough?
Every awesome wide receiver.
How about Malik Neighbors, who got targeted 10 times a game as a rookie?
Hey, I got 18 targets in my first game. How about we do that every game? Yeah. That's what every wide receiver wants. So if you have a shitty quarterback as a wide receiver, hey, I'm not running my call me mentally weak. I'm not running my goddamn routes 100% of the time anyway either. If I'm not the first read and my quarterback sucks, catch me fucking chopping it up with the corner on the backside of the play.
All right. We are into the top 5. These players have been talked about, dare I say, ad nauseum. So we probably don't need to go fully in depth. There's plenty of, if you've listened to us throughout the draft process.
To have a 2-hour episode.
I won't say that I'm not fading a little bit, but in reality, these are the guys. They've been the guys. I think even back to the mid-season rankings check-in back in October, these were probably the guys. It has not really changed at the top end. So, number 5.
Kaleb Johnson.
And same for me.
Right. So, Kaleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa, just a smooth mover. This is a player that is going to maybe get docked a little bit because of the athleticism, because of the combine numbers. I think he's a good enough athlete. I don't care. That's my takeaway from the combine, because you can see on tape that he is fluid. He accelerates. He sticks his foot in the ground and goes. He breaks tackles. He runs through tackles. He can break an angle every once in a while. But, that's not his game. He's not TreVeyon Henderson. He's not the guy that's going to burn a 60-yard touchdown when he gets a breath of daylight. That's just not who Kaleb Johnson was. He is a formulaic, dominant runner. He's I'm going to do everything right up until the end of the play. And I'm going to get 6 yards. I'm going to get 7 yards. I'm going to get 10 yards. I'm going to get 25, and then I'm going to score a touchdown. Sorry about it. you can't stop it. And that's the player he's going to be, whether he's drafted in the second round or the third round. I don't really care. Like, if he's on a decent team with a role, he's going to stay in this spot.
6'1", 224, runs like he does, fluid mover, pass catching, like we've talked about it plenty of times, a little bit untapped. They got him mixed in this year, but there's certainly more there. He is a natural pass catcher, even at the combine that showed up. Yeah. Like, if there's one thing that I am like, I don't know. Really hard to get a read on what consensus is with Kaleb Johnson. He does feel like a player that's kind of all over the place for people. You might have him where we do. Like, I have him graded as a first round caliber running back. You might have people saying he's a third round running back. Whatever it is, like, this is one of the takes that I've felt the safest with throughout the process.
Yep.
Like, when Kaleb Johnson broke out during the year and we were like, oh my God, like, this is a guy. And then it was like, he was climbing the ranks throughout the season. We get into tape and it was like, oh yeah, like Kaleb Johnson, no doubt. Never wavered off of that. If he busts, if he's a player that's like just out of the league, I would be absolutely shocked. Like, to me, he is the total package. Maybe he's not the high end athlete, like the running back we're going to talk about very shortly, but man, he is as solid as it comes at this position.
Nope, absolutely. Just, you can count on him. That's about where I fall on him.
So here's where we're going to differ, I think, because I have Omarion Hampton at number 4.
Okay. I have him at 2.
Yeah. So for me, I just purely have a higher grade on Tetairoa McMillan. So he's number 2 for me. I'll just spoil it. I don't think that's a surprise. Travis Hunter, like, I kind of went back and forth on this one a little bit. I still think Travis Hunter, there's like a rareness there that needs to be respected. And what that results in is Omarion Hampton's a number 4 player for me in the class. And I'm like, goddamn, like, if I had a top 4 pick, if I had a top 5 pick, but like,
right.
I mean, it's an incredible top end of this draft class.
Yeah. I'm in the business of scouting players, not, recognizing uniqueness. I'm just saying,
Yeah. Well, okay. Whoa.
No, I'm kidding. No, Omarion, I'll just say, like, I started out lower on him than you were, ended up higher. I don't know if I'm higher on him than you are. Like, it's just how we kind of talked about this before. It's like, how do you end up with what you end up in your rankings? And, like, how does your grading work, and how much of it is gut, how much of it is vibes?
Like, you think he's a first round caliber running back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. So we're probably like right.
We're real close on him. And I think we feel pretty similarly about him, as like, he's a north-south running back that has long speed. And that's something that, like, he combines all of the things that we've talked about with all these running backs so far, of like, TreVeyon has a long speed, but he doesn't have the play strength, and he's maybe a little more fragile, doesn't have the size. And then you talk about Judkins, and it's like, well, he has the power and he has some agility, but doesn't have a ton of speed, and, like, maybe his vision's not great. Get to Kaleb Johnson, it's like the athleticism, maybe like the long speed isn't there, and like he's not breaking angles, and but then Omarion kind of brings together a lot of the whole package, and he's got some breakaway speed. He is a punishing runner between the tackles. He is a pretty solid pass catcher, as we saw time and time again late in the season. And so he kind of brings all these things together as like a healthy, reliable, high upside workhorse. And that's what you're looking for when you get here. And like, those are so rare in Dynasty that I just like have to put him at number 2. With the other guy, I mean, Jeanty number 1 is like the prodigal workhorse running back of the class. But like, Omarion in a lot of other years is the number one kind of guy, the number one pick. And I'll say JT again, of like the guy that like you can trust leading your backfield in the NFL and in Dynasty.
I mean, he really does synthesize like a lot of the things like you're talking about with some of the players below him. I think the one thing with Hampton that is still sort of outstanding is how well does he see the field?
Sure.
And I think that's a pretty big thing to be like questioning when you're talking about a player this high in a draft class. But that is a testament to how complete the overall package is with Hampton, where it's like, I will forgive some of the questionable instances of like the vision failing him or making the incorrect read or missing, like running into the back of his lineman, whatever. I'll forgive that when he is like offering so much on the plays where he is just hitting it and going. I mean, the contact balance is truly special. I mean, that is his hallmark trait, is just being an absolute brick shit house and being like truly like impossible task for defenses to try to bring him down. Like I wouldn't want to be the one that tried to tackle Hampton, especially when he is so willing.
I don't want to tackle any of these guys. Let's make that clear.
Yeah, that's right. Even if I was a 6'3", 240-pound linebacker, I still wouldn't want to tackle Hampton because guess what? He's not that much smaller than me at that point, and he is as willing as anybody to run full steam ahead into my chest. So, yeah, I love Hampton. I mean, obviously, I have through the process here. He comes in at number 4, but that is really just a testament to the players that I have ahead of him. I think the top 5 for me in this class is really like, that's the tier for me. I mean, 101 is in a tier of his own. 2 through 5, I think that's the like, that's where I'd want to be if I had, if I was trying to position myself. If I had like pick 8, you're gonna get a great player at 8. Don't get me wrong, but I think top 5 is where I'd want to be.
Yeah, I have number 1 is a tier of its own. 2 through 4 for me is a tier, and then 5 through 8. So 5 through 8 is Kaleb Johnson, Judkins, Burden, and Warren is a tier.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these next couple guys live in a tier.
So
you opened it up. You kind of spilled the beans on everything. I have Travis Hunter at 4.
Okay, and I have him at 3. So, yeah. I mean,
what is there to say about Travis Hunter?
Well, and I don't even think there is much to say because I really think go back to the summer when we talked about what is this going to look like. We're going to have to wait and see. And we've made it to 10 days from the NFL draft, and it is still an open question.
Yep.
So we will not know until after the draft. We might not even know until well into the summer.
I don't think we'll know until like regular season game 1. Honestly,
yeah. They
can throw as much smoke as they want. They can tell us whatever we want. But like you won't know for sure until football is played and meaningful football is played. And that's the big like glaring question mark with Travis Hunter, because he's an immensely talented receiver. He's equally or more talented as a corner. That's why you can't like project this. And while we are talking about him as a cornerback or as a wide receiver and a cornerback in an IDP format, it's like, whichever you get is going to be really good. If he's full-time as a wide receiver, it's going to be really good. If he's part-time as a wide receiver, full-time as corner, and you have him in your DB slot, it's going to look really good. So who knows what's going to happen if you're not in an IDP league. I'd be really like hesitant to pull the trigger on Travis Hunter until you know for sure what he's going to be doing. If you're like, I have a Dynasty rookie draft in 2 weeks. Like, I don't know where Travis Hunter's going to go.
In a non-IDP league,
Yeah.
I don't even know how you answer this question. Like
right.
it's genuinely terrifying to imagine drafting him top 5 and then him just like not playing wide receiver enough.
Just like on your roster and like, do you just drop him? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
At least we have the benefit of like, if he plays mostly corner, maybe he gets mixed on offense and like we salvage it a little bit, but like I'm still not, he probably doesn't earn a top 5 draft pick if he's playing mostly corner. Like if he's only playing a little bit of wide receiver, are you still drafting him in the top 5 in this class? Like probably not, actually. I don't know, but we still haven't learned the answer to Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
And that is precisely why I am still rolling with Tetairoa McMillan as wide receiver 1 for me in this class.
Yep. I have him at 3.
I mean, just no questions here in terms of, obviously, we're not worried about him not playing the position full time. I do think there's something to be said, as we've talked about, Travis Hunter potentially having a higher ceiling as a wide receiver in the NFL, but that would mean he has to play that position full time. Like he can't realize that ceiling for fantasy, certainly, if he's not playing it full time. So that will always be the question mark with him. Whereas McMillan, I feel like, has fallen out of favor with a lot of people. And I feel like it's just a product of the process being long and this name being around for a long time. I mean, go back to the summer. He was still wide receiver, 1 or 2 for us at that time. So there's a little bit of name fatigue, perhaps. I do think people get a little bit up in arms over these bigger guys that aren't like pure separators. I feel like some people just latch onto that, and it's like, dude, he separates just fine. Like we're not talking about N'Keal Harry here.
Yeah, get over it. Like, stop the thing of like tall wide receiver. Oh, he can't separate. It's not true. It's simply false. Like that's where I'm landing with McMillan. Is like he's a pretty solid separator, especially for his size. He's an incredibly fluid 6'5" player. It's just you don't see that kind of thing. He's got pretty good speed, and he's so good after the catch. So like, and then hey, on top of it all, awesome as in contested situation. Like crazy good hands. So again, if we're going down the list and checking the boxes of things you want out of wide receiver, he has pretty much every box checked, except he's not like an elite separator. I don't need him to be. He's 6'5" and jumps 40 inches. Who gives a fuck? Like, I don't. So, like, let's not overthink Tetairoa McMillan. Like, let's not be, he's not super nuanced in the way he sinks his hips on a dig route. Hey, he looks pretty good to me because he's open. So let's leave it at that.
Yeah. And I'd say watch that dig route again because, man, he can run a hell
he does
of a
run
dig
a great
route
dig route. Yeah.
6'4" player. But all right. We've talked a lot about all these guys at the top. None more so, maybe, than Ashton Jeanty. I mean, is there anything left to say? Do we have to say anything? Can we just cut the show right here?
Ashton Jeanty is the closest thing I've seen to Christian McCaffrey. And that's my take that I'm sticking with through the draft. I think he should go number 4 overall.
I mean,
it should go. Honestly, hey, if it was me, Cam Ward's not going. He's going top 3. We're gonna go Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty.
Bang. I'm on board.
Giants,
with that.
do it again.
Yeah, do it again, and don't let him walk this time.
Yeah, keep him because he's good. No, Jeanty does everything you want a running back to do. He sees the field differently than most other running backs that exist in the world. Like he feels like he has like foresight into what's going to happen on a play, how blocks are going to develop. His feet move like in sync with this foresight that he has, where he just kind of like bounces and slides and then he's going. And he's got the stiff arm to stave off defenders. He's got, unbelievable contact balance. He always knows which way is up kind of thing. Like he can be in a crowd of defenders and still churning and then spin out and reach over and pound the goal line. It's like, how do you even know where it was? You got 6 guys on you, but that's the type of player he is. He's going to be like a Dynasty top 6 running back by week 4. Like if it even takes that long.
Yeah. I mean, it's the IQ, I think, is what seals the deal with him. I think that's how you turn like a normal high-end running back into what Ashton Jeanty is today, is just a player that is incredibly smart, understands the flow of the game, understands how a play is going to develop. If you want to hear a lot about Ashton Jeanty, go back to Running Back 2.0, click the timestamp that says Ashton Jeanty. I think I talked about him for 10 straight minutes. I like watching his film was a truly captivating experience because we were skeptical about him in the summertime.
We did flavors of takes in the off season, and one of my hottest takes was like Ashton Jeanty is going to be a top 5 Dynasty pick.
Oh yeah, the crystal ball.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's going to be a top 5 Dynasty pick, and we were both like, all right, it's a little bit of a hot take. But now looking back, it's like, I mean, if he's going to put up the second most yards ever in a season and the way he did it, there we go.
It's not very often that you watch a player and you're like, oh, he makes the game look too easy. Like something's wrong here. And then he does it again, but at like a 3 times level.
Way better.
And then you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're just watching somebody really special, aren't we? All right. That is 24 players and then some between our 2 lists. That was, I mean,
I need a cigarette.
I need a Marb Red right now, but it's that time of the year, baby. And the tape, I mean, there's a few players, maybe like a couple players I still want to watch, but I've watched most of the players I've wanted to get to at this point. I'm over 20 receivers, 20 running backs. So like we're cooking right now. Are there guys that didn't make the top 24? They don't have to be 26, 27, 28. Who are the guys that you want to shout out really quick?
A lot of them we've kind of talked about because like they were players that I had just outside that you had in yours. Yeah. So like they're the players that are sitting like Kyle Williams that are sitting right outside of I can't think of any that we didn't mention that I am going to plant my flag on. What about you?
I'll say a few names. Running back. I mean, I've talked quite a bit about some of these players. Trevor Etienne is going to be an enigma for me. I think he's going to get drafted lower than I have him ranked, and I don't know what to expect from him, but I still believe in his talent quite a bit. I would say he's one of my guys in this class. I feel like Damian Martinez has kind of become one of my guys in this class as well. I have him as RB12 right now. I like him quite a bit. I mean, honestly, there's this whole range. I could just sit here and name all these running backs. Manungai, Jarquez Hunter was fun as well. Like this running back class is legitimate.
Yeah.
Wide receiver wise, 2 guys that I'll shout out that we haven't really talked about here. Torrey Horton from Colorado State, who we've talked about in passing for 2 years. He's a fun player, and I'll put Pat Bryant's name kind of right beside Torrey Horton. I think those 2 guys project as like potential wide receiver 3s in the NFL. They have different skill sets, but like similar body types. Bryant is just a bully. The sort of like he's a awesome watch, just willing blocker, likes to throw his body around, likes to try to draw PI, and like he's that type of receiver. He's not going to be for everybody if you like pure separators, but I liked him quite a bit. And then the last one I'll just throw out because I teased this once upon a time, and I am officially proclaiming him my guy, Isaac Tesla from Arkansas.
Ooh, right.
The All-22 appeared for Tesla finally, and he's raw. And there's not a lot of action from this last year at Arkansas, but man, the stuff that you see from him in such limited action, coupled with his size and his testing from the combine, I'm in. I'm just in.
3 guys that I think will end up above their ADP for me: Ja'Cory Brooks, Nick Nash, and Terrence Ferguson are probably the 3 that we didn't talk about that ADP might be a little lower than I am.
Well, we will get to talk about many more players because we're not done here. This is just pre-draft. We got a whole nother saga coming post-draft. But if you enjoyed our lengthy...
If you're here, you enjoyed. Leave a goddamn like, subscribe, leave 5 stars on the Spotify. If you made it through 2 hours of us fucking yapping about these guys and you don't leave a like, what the hell are you here for?
I mean, yeah, like you're 2 hours of Camp Dynasty. You should get a badge yourself. Can we make badges and send them out for real?
We don't make any money from this. No, we can't do that. No.
But yes, we appreciate it if you've stuck around and do all the things that Collin just said. If you enjoyed, very much helps
Make us some money so we can send out badges in the future.
Right. Exactly. Hey, the Camp Dynasty shop opens next year and we're selling badges. I mean,
because of you guys.
Yeah, right. But next week, it will be NFL draft week. And that means that we get to indulge in some... I don't think next week's show is necessarily for the people. I think it's mostly for us, but we do it every year anyway because it's fucking draft week and I'm doing an NFL mock draft.
Yep, absolutely. So, we look back and we're like, all right, what episodes did well last year? What episodes didn't do well? The NFL mock draft never does well. And it's like, yeah, but we're doing it. So it's like shit.
I get it. I'm not DJ. I don't have sources, but let me have some fun for Christ's sake. But so we're gonna celebrate next week. It will be the lead up to draft night in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We will be there, and so we will put together our own take on what the first round of the NFL draft might look like. But thanks for listening this week, and thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty, and we'll see you next week.